Hi, my name is Martin Ince and I'm here in the Discovery Museum in Newcastle upon Tyne in England. I'm here to learn a bit more about a new approach to urban development and to how societies use knowledge. It's been developed at Newcastle University, and I'm going to interview Professor John Goddard and Professor Mark Tudor-Jones about the concept of what they call the Civic University. This Civic University movement is now going global, but it's certainly begun here in Newcastle, and I'm going to hear more about it from the world's leading experts in the subject who've developed it and are now spreading it around the world. Start with you, Professor John Goddard. I know what a university is. What's a civic university?
Well, it's quite interesting. Universities that were established in this country in the 19th century were very much born out of the towns in which they were based. And during the 20th, they were helping industrialisation, the work that was being done in Newcastle, Manchester, Liverpool. They were very much universities of the city. Then during the 20th century, the universities basically turned their back on the cities and national institutions. And now what's happening in the 21st century, in a very different environment of globalisation, where you have a global economy but also a local economy, the universities are also changing and reinventing themselves as institutions embedded in the city, but now in a globalised economy.
Professor Mark Tudor-Jones, you have a role, I know, of articulating the Civic University in Newcastle with the city itself. How does that work?
I think there's been a recognition, as John pointed out, that academics need to engage in the city in which the university is based in a much more profound way than perhaps they have in the recent past. And there are numerous techniques you can do there in terms of engaging with city officials, with businesses, with members of the public, with different communities and neighbourhoods, to give them a sense of confidence that they can be part of the conversation about shaping the future of their city. And also they have great ideas that the experts need to listen to. I think the days when the expert was in the ivory tower and had no relationship to anyone outside the university is going fast, and quite right too.
I know, John, you've been in on this from the very beginning. Why did the Civic University get taken up so strongly as an idea in Newcastle?
Well, I think part of the issue was about 2001. We had a new Vice-Chancellor who came and said, hang on, wait a minute. He came here actually from Imperial College, and he made the comment, very interesting comment. He said if Newcastle University were to close, it would have a profound effect. But if Imperial College closed, there would be a blip in the property values in South Kensington. And he came and and I was an urban geographer, working on the city. And he said, well, let's try and reinsert the university back into the city and develop the idea of Newcastle as a science city. And that's been taken forward, that's been deepened. How do we mobilise? And we've been mobilising our scientific expertise, not just social science, not just hard science, social science, engineering, medicine, to help the development of the city.
And what's a favourite example of yours of how this has played out in practice?
I think it's been most dramatic in the area of health, particularly research we're doing on ageing. We have a big medical school, a strong science, globally recognised science in the ageing. But ageing is not just about the body, it's about how people interact with the wider society. And we are developing our work on scientific work on making Newcastle an age-friendly city.
Mark, would you have a similar favourite example in practice of how this has worked out?
I think we had a great sense of pride in the way that we organised a pop-up urban room exhibition last year, which brought the public in to look at Newcastle past, present and future, and used that as a prompt to debate with 20 different organisations and businesses and officials about different issues, and ageing was one of those. But the critical thing was to think about ageing in relationship to other issues. So if we have an ageing society in the city, what does that mean for housing? What does it mean for energy use? What does it mean for transport? What does it mean if you're mobility impaired and find it difficult to get around the city? That's where the university and the expertise can play a prominent role in engaging with the right groups of people, but in a way which makes sense for the users of the city.
And I think the critical point there Mark's made is the city, you have to think about the interconnections between things. You know, it is both, you have to have a holistic view of the city and all of these things that come together. And the city is quite a messy place. But also we have to bring the totality of the academic expertise, different disciplines, engineers, social scientists and medical scientists. You have to have an integrated approach. And you have to also integrate teaching and research. So a key aspect of the Civic University as an institution is how it brings together different disciplines, different approaches, teaching, research and engagement in a holistic view, and bringing that holism to the city itself.
And am I right that this Civic University idea has also taken off around the world and there's widespread interest in it?
Well, I personally spent a lot of time travelling. There's a lot of interest in this around the world about how universities can become key motors of city development. They are key institutions, they are multifaceted institutions, and most universities are in big cities around the world. And so that in a sense, Newcastle is becoming a role model nationally and internationally.
I was finally just to ask very briefly, a lot of this has been about research. There are thousands of students at universities up and down the country paying £9,000 a year to be there. What's in it for them?
Well, I think one of the key issues for universities is employability of their graduates. And one of the ways in which graduates get the skills that are necessary to work in the labour market is by getting work-based experience, by working in local companies, by also learning about the world outside the academy. So in the Civic University, we are also concerned with the employability of our students, but more critically, making sure they're citizens of the future. And citizenship, I think, is a critical issue, to get students not only to be concerned only with their particular subject, but to recognise that they are part of a broader society.
And that's not treating engagement and Civic University separate to research and teaching as well. There is a loop back into how we teach students about city leadership, about how you look at cities in this synoptic way. At the moment, I think Newcastle has an advantage in doing that through a range of different faculties and schools and programs. And thousands of our students are already undertaking voluntary work in the city, and that demonstrates that they recognise the challenges and the opportunities as well.
Thank you both very much.